Herbst.
Was that not colorful?
Well, there is a highlight in the middle of one of the pages. But it's not exactly exciting stuff, MS4 and 303D and all
No,
that.
you already had your fill of that today.
So we'll forgive you for not having bells and whistles on this thing. Barry, it was probably exciting to you. No. I mean, this is, although, you know what? No, this stuff started coming around in 03, right?
Yeah, the phase two.
With the DEC and all that, so.
I was there in 03.
Yeah, you were, right. You had some
Yeah,
years
5 years.
on with this stuff.
What's that?
I was on the original committee at the council.
Were you really?
Yeah, I was one of the
Yeah.
initial members.
It's like old home week then. Well, does the camera hit you?
Was it because
Yeah.
you were around a quick position?
Okay.
Yep. So just want to touch base one last time. I've been asking for this for probably the last 5 or 6 years. And there's no time like the present, being this will be my last plea for it. But looking for a townwide drainage district. And it's not a new budget line, it's not an increase in budget, it's strictly having everybody pay into it. Right now you have, and I sent you all the statistics, and that was from assessing as far as the residential parcels that pay into a district, and then those available parcels. And it's actually 75.16% of the residents actually pay into a drainage district. It's on average around $39 to $40 per household. But the 24% plus, just under 25% that's not paying into it, equates to quite a significant increase for our budget. It's roughly $152,000 additional per year. These residents that aren't paying into it are receiving benefits. I had Ellie go through this week, and we went through subdivision by subdivision, and there were very few of the 25% that don't have storm sewers, catch basins, maybe they don't have gutters, but they all live in a watershed in one way, shape, or form. They've received benefits from the highway department, from the drainage, and/or they're still need to participate in the phase 2 end of this. The unfunded mandates that were unveiled in 2003, phase 2, affected every resident. Every resident lives in a watershed. And I just think it's time that everybody, 100% across the board, residential, help support that.
Can I interject something, Joe, that you've been helping on, you've been very instrumental on for the last couple months? Somebody will have to take the baton from you to finish it. 3 houses on Holt Road that have a drainage issue. And we're working with them. Charlie Genesi, our town attorney, we're getting resolution on it, getting easements signed, we're going to take care of it. And that was an eye-opener to me because 2 of the houses, the one on the left and the right house, but not the middle one, are in a drainage district paying that $30 or $40, and the middle one wasn't. Do you know why the middle one wasn't?
Date.
Yes.
What'd she say?
The date.
It was built in 19 whatever, 65, 70, and the other 2 houses were built newer.
Wow.
You find that odd? Geographically, that's because I assumed.
What's that?
Fell through the cracks.
No,
No.
it's actually, there's a timeline when a lot of the subdivisions, the older, you could, Winifred, Garywood, Beverly, Adeline, a lot of the older subdivisions were like pre-haloid Xerox.
They're 50s.
So, yeah, we didn't, the drainage districts at that point weren't starting to form because the drainage districts became site-specific to the development. So a lot of the developments that were in prior to that were never picked up on. If there were modifications to the subdivision, the newer portion of that subdivision got it, the older portion didn't.
Right.
So you've got neighbors that are side by side, paying, not paying. They're still receiving the same benefit, but I think it's more fair and equitable across the board
Yeah,
if
very
everybody is
interesting.
paying into
Absolutely.
a drainage district because they're all receiving the benefit one way or the other. And it's not just that, there's 6 minimum measures on the phase 2 compliance. And the county board helps support, the coalition supports a lot of that, but there's a couple, the first facets, the first minimum measures 1 and 2, everybody is receiving the benefit of that, but not everybody's paying into it. And that's the public education, public participation.
Well, and
That's done at the county level.
And to your point, this is not strictly looking at this as a money grab or a revenue grab for the town. All of these, again, we go back to unfunded mandates, are costing us more and more in these drainage areas. We're expending more funds, but not everyone is sharing in the cost of that.
Right, and I think they had a pretty good analogy the other day when we were sitting at that meeting. There were 8 of us sitting around the table, and I said, we order a pizza, and we all eat it, but only 5 of us pay into it. It's not fair.
Well, and I gave the example that we're working on Holt Road, and when the people that now all of a sudden will have that $30 or $40 on their house will say, another tax. That's what it is, right? I mean, let's call a spade a spade. But, I mean, so we don't do this because 75.1% of the properties are getting it, but the other 25 aren't? Would that be a reason why we wouldn't go forward with this? Because the numbers, as far as the revenue in your drainage districts, and the money that comes in, which is pretty much used by the highway department to manage things.
Correct.
I mean, you're talking about an additional, on the residential alone, $100,000. Is that about right?
Yeah, it's over that. Correct.
Which, what do you do with that additional money?
It's maintenance. I mean, it's all maintenance, and it's staying EPA compliant. As it is, when the unfunded mandates came out, the highway ate all the costs because the highway took care of all of the mandates and the requirements. So from phase 1 and 2, like I said, or minimum measure, they
Joe,
call them 10 minutes.
how much do we pay just to belong to the committee?
It's just over, this year was 10,520. That's just the membership due.
That was the committee bill, was that?
And we have to.
But we didn't, it used to be, there wasn't a charge for it initially.
Oh.
In 2002, 2003, it was minuscule.
First couple of years, there wasn't a charge.
Yeah.
And then they decided that because of all the requirements that were going to be brought forth, the county had a better way to cover that than each individual town did.
Right,
So therefore, that's why the charge went into effect.
sure.
So
And it was
everybody pays a share.
And it was much easier to collaborate and be compliant than it was independently. It would be far more costly to do it independently.
The cost of this has gone up. Every year it goes up a little bit more, but I mean, it's an old issue that, initially for our drainage in town, we have, when the phone rang, we take care of it. And then we dedicated a couple of people to it. Then we dedicated a foreman and a couple of people to it. And then we dedicated a foreman, personnel, equipment, because it just grew and grew and grew. And so our responsibilities along the way have grown, and so has the cost. But, like Joe said, only 75% of the people pay into it, the residents, and 25 don't, because they just weren't originally they weren't in areas where you would think drainage was an issue, okay?
Did you also,
People
Yeah,
on
let's
the
hear
west,
from Bill. Bill was on the committee. You could.
no, he's in an area that he didn't think drainage was.
Oh, I thought you had
25% area.
but, the northwest corner of town, which was much more rural back then.
Right.
Now that's been developed and is being continued to develop. I noticed that there's more houses being built on the corner of Shoemaker and Van Alstyne Road. There's
And
development,
Herman.
right?
Somebody bought Herman and building there.
Somebody on Herman bought this building.
Is a drainage district on your tax bill similar to an EDU for the sewer? It's not based on your assessment, it's just a flat fee?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's a flat fee.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I can see where some of old Webster over off DeWitt that might not be as assessed value, appraised value as much as the newer ones, that affects them more than newer, more expensive houses as a percent, right?
Well, if you want to look at it as percent, but if you want to look at it as, cutting the pizza and how much is it per slice?
Yes.
As I recall, when we started out, it was like $5. The first initial.
Can't remember.
was like
Yeah.
$5.
Joe,
The issue always was, you start adding a tax to people, are they gonna vote for you the next year? They're not gonna like it. They'll tell you that. You put a tax on them, another tax on them, and that's what they tell you.
But
Let's call a spade, let's put it right out there, that's been the issue. The
The
cost
different-
and what homeowners are willing to pay for and what they're not.
the difference being, though, 75% are already paying and
Right,
helping
right.
support the 25% that aren't.
right,
Right.
And just to add to this, the EPA is going to be coming out with new mandates, and these mandates, especially for 303 delisted water bodies, which most of Webster is, they're even far more stringent, far more stringent. We sent back, as the county coalition chair and with the surrounding county coalitions, we sent back almost 400 pages of resistance and objections to the new proposal, and that was 3 years ago. The draft form was supposed to come out last year after they had reevaluated it in Albany, and the new draft form has just made it to the regions of DEC for their review before it's distributed. But the requirements on the MS4s is going to be even worse.
Now, if we were to form a townwide drainage district and everybody paid into it, would it remain at $39 or would it be adjusted down?
Right.
So the cost of it might stay the same initially. Right, but more
Right.
people paying into
Paying
it
into
would
it.
would
More people
lower
paying
the
into
amount.
it, right,
Correct.
Okay.
right.
Joe, did you also say there's a number of commercial properties that are not paying into this as well?
There are no commercial properties. That is something, unlike Henrietta and Greece, there are no commercial properties. And if you base that on amount of impervious area, that's a whole nother discussion.
They should probably be paying, I'm sorry to
But-
say this, they
but
should be
the
paying
other
most.
Large municipalities like Greece and Henrietta, where they've got large malls and stuff like that,
Yeah.
they pay a percentage into it. And if you look at, I said onto you the codes, there is
Right.
verbiage in our codes already that allow us to do that.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's not
So if we
not
had,
discussion for tonight.
if we had a townwide drainage district, would then all people be paying into it, including commercial?
I would hope.
Yeah.
They should, and realistically, you look at as far as the phase two, the whole idea of the phase two is water quality. No different than 1978
Right.
Clean Water Act and phase one in the 93. That's all about water quality. You look at the amount of impervious area and then the hot spots, the
Right.
point source pollutants, gasoline, oils, antifreeze, all the hydraulics, the crap that's on large parking lots. How many times you walk through a parking lot and after a rainstorm and see the rainbow? That's all pollutants. They're one of the bigger contributing factors.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody should be paying into it, but
How does the commercial rate, is
it's
that,
per square foot of impervious area. That's
Oh.
typically how it's done.
okay,
And if there are, I know in some of the other towns, there are credits, just like the DEC has. You do bioretentions, rain gardens, ways to filter it prior to it being discharged back into the environment or the watershed. There's credits for that. I'm not sure how the other towns, municipalities do it as far as if there's a reduced rate for more water quality amenities on
Sure.
site.
So the residential one's a little more cut and dry because we either keep the rate the same or we take the same budget and hey, guess what, everybody's down to $32. My understanding of the commercial rate, we'd have to figure out how to set that rate. Because heretofore, we're starting from scratch.
Correct.
Because it's very different than residential, we've gotta go per square foot of impervious. And that,
Who's the largest square foot of impervious in town? Xerox.
Yeah.
That's like I said, this is
Oh,
a
boy.
much bigger discussion.
that's nice.
So, but we're looking for right now for the residential, and I'm not sure offhand if reducing the rate, and it would make more sense to pick up the 25% and then share the wealth across all that at the current budgeted rate. But then down the road, you may end up having to raise that rate to accommodate the new mandates. Because realistically, we're strapped. One of the things that I got to do was I've taught in Buffalo, Albany, and Syracuse on municipal sustainability via the unfunded mandates. And that's because we've gotten very, very creative on meeting the mandates using what we have. But we're starting to run out of what we have, and it's starting to affect our normal maintenance cycle. We've got 3 streets in town right now that need new storms. I can run them under the Capitol, but then I'm compromising the road maintenance. So who do I short, Peter or Paul?
John.
And John, yeah, or maybe Ringo. But the problem is, replacing those storms, unfortunately, the age of those subdivisions, the storms and the sanitaries run right down the middle of the road. So it's
boy.
far more costly than lawn repair, because now you're talking asphalt and all the base, sub-base to bring it back. So,
That's the way it was built in the old days.
yeah,
Is it
right down the
possible
middle.
Sewer lines were put in the road.
Is it possible to line those?
Yeah,
Rather than dig
some
them
of
up?
them.
Well, I've got quotes right now from multiple companies. You're looking at about just under $200,000 for one road, just under $200,000 if we do it right down the middle of the road and replace it. I've got costs for line. The problem with lining is, in this one particular street, there's 4 composites of pipe. It's got concrete, steel, clay tile, and plastic. It's got all 4 composites. So the cost, it was $78,000 to line it. And then they have to go back in for an additional cost and cut out all the laterals. And a lot of the basements on the street are gravity fed. So you can't wait. It's not like there's some pump with a backflow valve and they can
Right.
protect themselves. But part of the problem we're having is those basements are flooding. Every time we have an event, there's another failure in a pipe from a concrete pipe where the top fell in, sinkhole shows up in the road, basements flood. But we don't have the kind of revenue to just run at $200,000 down the middle of the street,
Which road is that?
Adeline.
Adeline?
And Beverly's right behind it.
Yeah.
And then Thomar's right behind
Toll
that.
Mars right after that.
I say townwide drainage district is most certainly warranted.
What's the process for
I'm just glad you asked
Adopting a-
that, Betty.
a townwide drainage district?
It's a Charlie
Public hearing,
question.
I assume?
It is.
It's a public hearing,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, definitely gotta have a public hearing.
Yeah, check with
Again, the
Charlie.
district's already there and the rate's already there. It's a matter of adding those that are not.
But that's residential only.
Right.
And that rate doesn't work for commercial
Correct.
because you said it's based on
Worry about the
a foot
residential.
of a, so that is variable.
Sorry?
I'd worry about getting the residential resolved first.
Oh, yeah, we've
Drop
definitely
back.
got to do this
Because the commercial's gonna take some discussion.
piece at a time.
Yeah, I think you're right, Bill, that, I mean, yeah, we could ask Charlie to, Monday's March 1st. It's 10 months left in the year. So realistically, because we don't know the process, what would have to be done to have this on everybody's tax bill for the January of 2022? Town bill. It's on the town bill, right? Town and county. And
It's
Barry, I
line.
do get a kick out of it. Of course, you're not running again, so you don't care, right?
No, it's
and
this.
that's right. Yeah. I hate to say, I want to speak for other people, but doing what's right, I'm not concerned about what year it's in, and it's an election year. I want to make sure we follow the process, the public hearing and all that. We just don't know if this is something that has, how long it takes and what you have to do. Charlie's the guy to ask, right?
Right.
Well, and when we look at, people are going to say you're raising my taxes, but if you look at 75% of the town who just now found out that maybe the person who lives in the middle of 2 homes, or 25% of the town is not paying into it, I think they'd be a little upset too.
Well, yeah, and I think some of the people that aren't paying will understand that they're receiving the benefit and they need to share the cost.
Right.
And the cost is gonna go down. The per unit charge will go down with the additional 25%.
I think we'll have to be careful how much we take it down, because if we're looking for
Right.
more expenditures to meet future mandates, we don't want to do a bait and switch kind of thing where, oh, you know what, if we all sign up, you're going to pay $30, but oh, by the way, in 2 years, we got to raise it back to $36. I mean, we need to be careful how we do that.
Kinda sounds, I'm not gonna say it.
Sounds what?
No, I can't say it.
You're not running. Say it.
Then don't say anything.
Kinda sounds like a revale.
You know what? I was going to say, you can't, obviously the way with the 2% cap works now, you can't play that game. So no, we would want, Patty, you're right. You want to be very mindful of, Here's the total budget of drainage districts in 2021.
And what are we looking at in 2022?
Exactly. If we're trying to keep it the same, then yeah, your $39 a unit's gonna go down to $33 or $31 by doing this.
Maybe we find a happy medium,
Well, that's,
and the 75% drop a little bit, and it's not
Right.
as big a charge on the 25%.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
well,
That's,
and that's an
We know there's
education of
gonna
the
be
public.
more
about,
regulations,
you know,
and the cost is gonna go up. We know that, so why would we not plan now for that?
Right, and it's not a number we're gonna pull out of the air, we're gonna look at what the budget will be in the next couple of years, what
Right.
we're anticipating.
Right, yeah. I get the feeling that there's not anybody on this board that doesn't feel as though, man, this has gotta be done. It makes sense, it's fair, it's.
Well, yeah, it definitely has to be done, and I think the other issue we need to look into right away is the commercial aspect, because, they should be contributing also. I know there's gonna be some sticky situations there, but we should probably open up the discussion, with Charlie at least, maybe offline to see, where we go with this. But you make a great point, Joe, and I appreciate you bringing this, to the board once again, and, like Supervisor Flaherty said, I think we're all on the same page as far as this goes.
I kind of lean toward Bill that let's attack the residential first. But if we find out the process is such that we have time to, in parallel, discern that commercial, I understand that you said that Xerox is the biggest impervious. I get it, that we're the ones, even the village properties come under this, right? So it doesn't matter what part of Xerox is in the village or town, it's our charge, the town charge.
Right.
If Charlie says that the process is really in a
We'll
month.
charge the
that it's
village.
done.
I don't think the village pays into the
No,
storm
the
district.
village doesn't pay into this.
Well, you have here, there's 15,000 residential parcels in town. Are you not counting village homes?
I think that the village, if not mistaken, is their own MS4.
They are.
Okay, so that 15,000 parcels
Outside.
in town doesn't include anything in the village,
Right.
so.
So it doesn't
Patty's
include,
good now.
Right,
So it doesn't
the
include
village.
You
But
didn't
I'm
lo-
paying my own.
You didn't lose your votes in the village pay.
Okay. Well, that makes me think from the last thing that there is close to 23,000 residences or whatever.
He said 25,000 mailboxes.
Yeah, well, I'm convoluting, I'm sorry.
Okay.
you don't think we have mailboxes in the
How
village?
many commercial, we don't know how
on
many
the house,
commercial
we can't
properties
hit
there are.
Sometimes my mailman's not aware that I have a mailbox.
It's based on square footage. I mean, you're gonna have to go out and get blueprints of every one of
Yeah,
those.
that's gonna be a,
Get
Of
the
what?
square footage
You're
of the
talking, commercial?
commercial.
That's easy to do.
We have it.
They do it they do it via satellite.
Right.
It's easy. The county's already started.
But one of the things you brought up was that there are credits available to those commercial properties who think outside the box. When you think of the rain gardens and the certain retention areas that they put in, there's smart ways to do that as opposed to just digging a pond. And you see it in several areas that you go to. I know that when I go to Costco, their parking lot has got the plants and all of that stuff, and I recognize it for what it is. So not only are they getting a tax credit, or they're getting some sort of credit for that, however that works, but they're helping to not contribute pollutants in the watershed
Well,
by doing
actually,
it in a
That's
smarter
where all the
way.
new development
In the new
is.
development's a requirement. You look
Right.
at Dairy Queen down the way,
Yep.
on Hard Road, they've got an absolutely beautiful rain
Yes,
garden.
they do.
And that was.
We put one in our parking lot on Van Ingen.
So, yeah, there's one right here. Actually, right here, just to
Yeah,
the north, yep. So, yeah, that's a requirement. And actually, the one that separates the town hall from this court building was put in via grant. I got a grant via the county. And other than the maintenance, we didn't pay to put that in. I mean, our cost share, our manage, was the labor to put it in, but all the materials and stuff. And the filter sand that's in there is not cheap at all.
There's a development I can't remember the name of it, it's in Irondequoit.
T-Square.
What?
It's over by the House of Guitars on Titus.
They put all the plants up on the roof.
That gentleman has gone crazy over there. He's done a phenomenal job.
He really
Everything
has.
out over there is ecological
Amazing.
and environmentally friendly.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's got the.
I-square, right?
I-square, that's it,
Yep.
not T-square.
T-
T-square is what I
I-square.
use for the drywall. I-square.
Yeah,
yeah. Mr. Nolan
Yep. Yeah.
went to school with,
Yeah.
with his brother. He's younger than me.
got, I think the top floor is a restaurant, if I'm not mistaken.
They grow herbs up there, and that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Anyway,
Yeah, anyhow,
I'll reserve judgment on how we do this until
Charlie.
Charlie chimes in about the process, but if I'm a betting man, I bet you we're only doing residential right now, because I get the feeling commercial might have some things that'll make it challenging. But if Charlie says no, and you say that identifying the properties, the commercial properties and all that is easy, all right, then, if it's not a monstrous task to do them both at the same time and get truly a townwide drainage district on residential, commercial, I'm in, but I don't know. I want to hear what the process is. And Charlie's not here tonight, so we'll, yeah, I know.
Thank you for this one last ask. It's an important one, and certainly it's a drum you've been beating for quite a while.
So, yeah, I had hair when I started.
Hey, Joe, you know what? If this thing moves along,
I always had
you can
it.
come back as a subject matter expert citizen in the future as we go through this process.